1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, works. Ladies and gentlemen, dear panelists, my name is Kati. I'm the CyberTech project lead of Startup Estonia. I had the honor to put this event together. I'm super happy to see that there's quite many of you, so seems like the topic really speaks to you, which is the important thing. Unfortunately, cyber threats and challenges are here to stay, and we want to popularize the topic to make sure that enterprises and businesses nowadays also know what to be ready for. But without further ado, I'll give the hand over to our experts on the field and decision makers. So thank you again, and let's enjoy the debate. Gert.
Okay, thank you, Kati. My name is Gert Jervan, and I'm coming from TalTech, Tallinna University of Technology. I'm there in the School of IT, professor, dean, and in the School of IT we have our cyber center and a lot of other activities related to cyber as well. And it's my great pleasure to have today here very interesting composition of the panel, because we have people from very many different fields. So we have here Taavi Veskimägi, who is CEO of Elering. And Elering, as you know, is something what we are calling in Estonia ETO, or the company which has to provide services no matter what. Then we have Andrus Kivisaar, who is co-founder and CEO of CybExer. And we have Jürgen Erm, who is CEO of Cybers. So a lot of cyber here. But I'm not going to introduce my panelists here myself, because they are probably the most knowledgeable by themselves about their background and why especially they are today here and what is their relation to cyber. So Taavi, maybe you can start.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. Happy to be here, because for us in Elering, we as vital service providers, as it already mentioned here, I think this is one of the most urgent issues right now, because our mission, keep lights on, home seated, such that, as Gert said, it's really something that you should provide whatever takes place there in the outside. Maybe this is the reason that why I'm invited today, and definitely Elering is a part of the wider ecosystem. Of course, we are working together, our vendors, our partners, both dear panelists also, our good cooperation partners in Elering. Maybe this is the why I'm here, and I'm happy to speak about and explore a bit that how and what we do in current circumstances.
Thank you. Andrus, CybExer.
Yeah, hello, I'm Andrus Kivisaar. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of CybExer Technologies. So actually really honored to be invited to this panel, and I think that it's from our perspective we can bring this sort of learning and exercising experience to the cyber world, and see how critical information infrastructure providers and actually security providers could work efficiently together and build the company's cyber resilience on sort of keep it up to date and meet the new ever-growing cyber threat landscape. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. And Jürgen, Cybers.
Hello, my name is Jürgen. I'm from a company called Cybers. The official term of what we do is managed security service provider. So we work closely with the Estonian public sector and private sector companies to provide them security solutions and also consultation and help them to, as already mentioned, raise their cybersecurity resilience level.
Okay, and today's discussion is something what we definitely want to have also open with the rest of the audience. So whenever you have any questions, just wave your hand. I know Estonians are very modest, but let's try to get over this one today. And definitely we have later also a dedicated Q&A time, so you can also collect your questions for the latter period. But I start with current situation in the cyber domain. So Taavi, what are you afraid of?
I'm quite... yeah, that's a good question. That what I'm afraid of, but maybe I'll start from this point that I think time of last 12 months or more, I think a lot of changed for us, and I think changed not so much from the technical point of view, but changed mentally and culturally. And I think this kind of, if you're looking from the sea level, then this is I think the most prominent shift what have taken place, especially in-house in Elering, because we have a company with a long heritage. And if people who maybe directly has been responsible of the cybersecurity or IT issues or C-level management, maybe their awareness been also before the full-scale invasion, Russian invasion to Ukraine, there already. But I think the ordinary employees of Elering, their sense of urgency increased quite a lot about the cyber domain after invasion, because I think people somehow recognize that this threat is really real, that the sense of urgency there, and I'm really happy to say that those lessons learned from Ukraine, it's we really somehow try to shorten our learning curve based on those lessons, and definitely we don't do it alone. But I think the one such keyword really cooperation with the private companies from Estonia, but also our allies from outside. And of course we recognize those kind of attack vectors, always unique. But anyway, I think our preparedness right now, 12 months after Russian full-scale invasion, based on this kind of sense of urgency among all employees, are much greater as previously. Because and why it's so important that I think we also turned in the past quite a lot of attention to the such high-level system as SCADA, for instance. This has been always under our very focused attention, but now we understand then that all those subsystems, they are much more vulnerable, and we have to put much more attention on all what's going on, for instance, in the substation level, around the techno systems, because those attack vectors what we have seen in Ukraine exactly based on this kind of logic, and I hope that exactly this preparedness to keep lights on and home seated also based on the good digital capability is much better, but of course good analog backup is always a really important one.
Well prepared. So despite the fact that I know Elering has been always turning attention to cyber issues already earlier, since this was still like a wake-up moment or kind of a moment for mobilization.
Somehow yes, and as I said that those dedicated people, I think their awareness been there already before. But if we talk about the maintenance guys or a wider circle of Elering's employees, then I think for them that ordinary maintenance guy substation unit, they now recognize, okay, this is something also for me, that also I should know, and not only know, but I should act properly. I think this kind of practical practical capability to act, not only theoretical knowledge, maybe what was there, but exactly, this is right now there. This threat is real.
So, Jürgen, do you see similar trends in other industry sectors? Or what is your view at the moment, the current situation?
Yeah, I would agree with Taavi that the knowledge part or the public awareness of the situation we are in today has definitely increased. It increased a lot with the Ukraine war, which Russia started. But in the industry, the cybersecurity awareness or the need of it has been like a known factor or in a good level for many years. But those like wide scale incidents that end up in the news, and especially if cyber weapons in a sense are used in the real world, they will also emphasize that level. But what we are seeing today, fortunately, in Estonia, when we talk about our companies, they are not being so much targeted when we speak like Russian APTs or something. But there are still plenty of bad actors out there who are out for maybe financial gain and doing their ordinary techniques and tactics. But overall situation, I think it's not a cause for panic, but it's like a very good opportunity for us to use this awareness and increase the knowledge especially, and also our technological capability.
Andrus, one part of your business is definitely also training and also awareness and all those kind of related topics. So how you see at the moment situation? Has been there some kind of change in the mindset of the companies or it's like kind of ever increasing interest which has been growing over the years and we continue as it has been happening already before?
Well, yes, I would say that bad things have happened previously, and sort of a big news for everybody. They will continue to happen, and it will get even worse. And but we need to be sort of we need to be cool about it. So what we also see, and then what we are sort of advocating is that we need to find a tone to talk about it, and then not to be ashamed of if something even happens to you, and then we need to find the way to talk about it, and sort of and also sort of move away from this scaring part. Also that by scaring you will not sort of open the discussion, so that. And I think that one of the main messages is to actually to find this cool to talk about those threats and exercise and be ready for those. What we also see is the digitalization is a mega trend, and a lot of startups and companies are moving to cloud, serving their services as SaaS, and I think that also the industry 4.0 now 5.0. Are the things that need to be effectively sort of discussed, and we need to talk about the other side of the coin, is the cybersecurity, and then how to be prepared, so that and how to secure all those services. Yes, in our company we are playing through different type of attacks, some very sophisticated, some not so sophisticated, to actually give the glimpse of the cybersecurity problems, and what we see is that those old threats, they don't disappear. With cyber, it is that there are new threats emerging all the time, but the old ones don't disappear, and then you also need to find this balance, how to actually cope with this challenge, because humans have also limitations. There is like humanly not possible to know it all. So that how to divide the work in the company, so that, or in the security provider side or your own security team, so that people actually are sort of aware of the latest trends, but not forgetting or losing their competencies of dealing with the old ones, and so that the landscape is in a way expanding, and this dynamic from the other side, it's also static. So we are bringing this example all the time. This DDoS, for example, that everybody was telling that it will disappear at some point. Well, it's not. It's still there and causing a lot of problems for companies. So, and another thing is also the AI. So that the AI-enabled sort of scannings and attacks and sort of this is changing again the landscape. So that we are sometimes bringing this example that if in a startup you have the sales development representatives, SDRs, that are like contacting potential customers, and imagine AI doing that and then serving you only with SQLs, the sales qualified leads. Basically, what is happening in the cyberspace. So that there are AI scanners that are actually going around, not discriminating anybody, but just looking for vulnerabilities wherever you are. Are you in healthcare? Are you in banking? Are you in government? In business? Whatever. If you have the unpatched system, you are served as sort of a ready target. So that it's sort of as in sales terms, the SQL. So I think that this will change a lot this future and the landscape, and of course the skills gaps. So that one is the human skills gap, another is the technology skills gap, and by that I mean that you're not able to solve the cybersecurity problem with just throwing money at it. So that you're buying a lot of new cool technology to implement in your organization, but if you haven't actually tried it, how it all works together, or if you don't have sufficiently educated personnel to manage those, then it's still sort of doesn't give you the effect. And I think that also the continuous training of the personnel, the cybersecurity personnel, also is something that needs to be. It's not sufficient to have a exercise once a year. So you have to have actually a continuous training plan, and that might result in some bigger event during once or twice a year. But in the middle, you all the time need to sort of find ways how to sort of interactively keep them engaged and get new knowledges. So that is, I think, an overview from the training company side.
Okay, very good. Taavi was already mentioning it earlier that technical personnel had kind of awareness, and they were turning attention to all cyber-related topics already earlier, but now this awareness has kind of spread within the company that more and more people are actually recognizing the need. But Jürgen, what is your view? I mean, when we are talking about company like, for example, Elering or any other kind of a company, what is your view on whose responsibility the cyber-related topic should be? Is it like, does it start directly from the CEO level? You should have like some kind of dedicated people, dedicating management mechanism for this one, or how do you see the companies from your perspective when you are looking inside of the companies, how this kind of cyber management has been organized and how it should be organized?
First of all, I think the second part of that question, when Taavi will answer, will be very interesting to listen. But when we talk about whose responsibility is cybersecurity, then from experience, when we talk with customers, the idea of it is like varying, because, for example, when we talk with executives who have not maybe made themselves aware of the potential cybersecurity risk, then they say that this is something related to IT, so go talk with me, my head of IT, and he will answer your questions. And if you want to sell him anything, then he will come up to me and tell me what it is. But also, there are growing number of executives who are understanding what is at stake. They have done their own risk analysis. They have taken it into account what can happen if, for example, there is a full-scale some sort of cyber incident in their organization, and they have put in measures how to avoid the situation in the first hand, but also how to act when your IT infrastructure is impaired. And then are the ones who ignore basically all the risks and think that those bad things don't happen to me. and usually we see them a couple of years down the road, and when there is an incident, and this is the place where the mind shift actually changes.
Taavi, but how do you address this one in your company?
I think this is the really very, very important question exactly from the leadership point of view. And what we do, and I think based on the last couple of years experience, I think it worked quite well. Definitely, we have a very much a top-down approach. We definitely see this is the, as I already said, the C-level responsibility. And if I say the top-level responsibility, it means that we really somehow start exactly as I said many times already, that why Elering exists. We understand that we should keep lights on 7/24 and home seated 7/24. That there are no other choice what ever happened outside. Exactly, it means that we are very risk averse. We are a very risk averse company. It couldn't be otherwise. What I'm really proud of, that if we conducted, we do such regular risk assessments, but we conducted last year a couple of more risk assessments. We have basically special dedicated working groups for every risk what is in our risk universe. And then definitely risk related with the cyber is not such a one vertical, but this is really the horizontal, which is goes to different business functions. And different business functions are really look based on their responsibility, that what kind of risks they are. And what we really did also after the 24th of February last year, we conducted a new risk assessment, as we know that basically risk, what it is, this is basically probability multiplied by impact. And we have spoken quite a lot from the probability point of view, that the current geopolitical situation, probability is definitely much higher as it was. But for us as our main business is electricity and electricity transmission system operator, also very much impact side increased because power grid is increasingly digital. And both, if this is the equation that basically impact multiplied by probability, that if both parts are very much increased, and of course you as a top manager, this is your responsibility to keep company running and do the job why company is really established. And based on this last year, just as example, we conducted this extra risk assessment that discovered those new risks, and we have our risk appetite very much in place, what kind of risk appetite we looking for. And we definitely understood that this residual risk is by far higher than we can accept. And this is very much a logical one, that we created extra actions, allocated extra resource to mitigate those this by far higher residual risk, bring it the level which is acceptable for us, which is acceptable for our customers, to keep lights on. That this is the way how we are operating, and I say that the foundation of this job is really well managed risk assessment in the company.
Okay, thanks. Andrus, now Taavi was explaining it from the perspective of a critical infrastructure company or critical infrastructure in general. But if you are now going to expand this picture a little bit, and let's talk about the other companies as well, starting from, I don't know, small startups whom we are seeing today here in Tartu, or going to the regular businesses which are not in the field of critical infrastructure. Is there something fundamentally different, or the considerations are the same, only maybe the magnitude of activities is a little bit different, or what is your view on cyber management in general?
Well, I think that there are several sort of commonalities in either you are a CIP or just a startup, and I think that in cyber crisis or cyber incident, it's we define it in a way 50-50 problem, so that it's a 50 technical and 50 actually management, so that and what we have seen during our exercises is that there is also we call it the interface problem, so that you actually need to exercise and rehearse actually the technical reporting also to the management, so that it's actually on an understandable level, because otherwise if there is no interface, then management might not take the proper action also on responding to the incident. And if we are talking about sort of wider crisis management and incident response, then in most cases it has been made on the management level, so that there is several technical options, for example, to solving it, and both have different impacts, and not only sort of on the company, but on the customers and resources in general, like how much money you put into solving it, and it means actually effective communication with the management, and management actually taking the responsibility and being aware, and I think that it is very important to actually exercise those type of possible scenarios, so that people will not start to figure out the ways of action or responsibilities during the crisis, so that being prepared for that is something that we encourage, and also with solving the crisis, I think from the startup perspective or smaller business perspective, I think it is important also that being a transparent, and transparency builds a trust, so that your customers will choose your product by looking also at how you are managing crisis, so that if you are open with what is happening, and then you have a sort of a proper thought through communication and all surrounding measures in place, then the possibility that customers will actually trust you more will increase. And I think that it's a very good example actually from the 2007, that's a long time ago, of course, but when we had those big attacks against Estonia, and actually everybody was telling that probably the sort of the trust against e-services will actually go completely down, and that Estonia is done with their e-services and being this e-government. And what actually happened is that the government actually turned it around, so that we openly talked about it. We were like really transparent what is happening, and what happened was that all the e-services actually boomed. So that and now we don't imagine our sort of lives without e-voting, for example. So that and etc. So and I think that the managements are realizing it and some, of course, with sort of hard lessons. But let's take again, for example, the SolarWinds example. A few weeks ago, then the sort of court case against the management of SolarWinds actually resurfaced, so that shareholders are actually going into court against the management who actually ignored the CISO's notes on how on the situation of cybersecurity. So, and that will be probably we are talking about hundreds of millions in dollars. So it means that well, I would say that probably this sum of money will get the attention of every management in different companies. So yeah, I would say that it's 50-50, and it's about outside. It's about the sort of transparency and building trust on that.
Taavi, you want to make a remark?
Yes. Just one comment. What came into my mind that I think this kind of weakest link approach is, at least from our point of view, very much important. As I said, that we don't do this job alone. We are very much based based on our actions on our vendors, partners, and it's really important that they apply exactly the same standards. Because I think one of the most critical attack vectors what we right now see, or even most probable attack vectors, exactly that any kind of adversary come in really based on not our own system but our partners or our vendors' systems. This is why it's so important that we maintain really the same standard for cybersecurity, not only in-house but also among this wider ecosystem. And this is if someone really like to work with us or similar vital service provider as we are, then definitely they should follow the same standards to be part of this ecosystem.
Okay, that's very interesting. You already went into this domain of attacks, and we all know that there is a wild west out there, and always we have someone knocking on our doors and trying to find a weak link and so on and so on. But when we are talking about Elering, for example, then it's very clear there can be political motivations behind to take, I don't know, Estonian Greek town or whatsoever. But then maybe another question is that when we have like typical startups, they have started a few months ago and they are having like tons of different activities happening anyhow in parallel. And when we are talking here about the cyber risks and so on, then maybe they are just saying that, well, yeah, but that's like least of my worries. I mean, my worry is to find yet another round of money and to survive till next month. So is it really so? Or already the small startups from day one should start to think that attacks do happen, attacks might happen, and they might be also targets of the attack? And if they are the targets, then why they are the targets? What is maybe the motivation on attacking a small, or maybe not even so small startup anymore? Mm-hmm. Jürgen? Yeah.
When it comes to startups, first of all, if they start out, you mentioned very correctly that maybe cybersecurity is not on the top priority on the agenda list. But from just a warm recommendation, put it on there as soon as possible. I know it can be maybe a little bit tedious. It's easier to believe that I have developers, they know what they're doing, and just give them a laptop, they will write you code, and next thing you know, you will make some millions in the first round. But it can also take away the trust if you miss something, or if you screw up basically in the early rounds. Then how can you be trusted? And especially if you want to become like a cybersecurity startup, then you need to be like even more like leading by example. But yeah, the risks it went through in the discussion already that the adversary is opportunistic, and it doesn't mean that you're just starting out, you're small and nobody wants to deal with you or something. If you have systems, if they are open to the world, then you will get some visitors that you don't like to see. And yeah, this is you have to get your baseline security up, and this way you can ensure that you will last a longer time.
Andrus, maybe you can comment a little bit on this one, that what kind of attacks you have seen, or you have seen on your customer sides, that what's happening actually? Why they have been attacked, or what has been the motivations there? Of course, no names.
Sure. So I think that I'll put it like this, that there are people are exercising for different type of vulnerabilities, and they have different systems. And I will maybe make it a little bit wider, so that actually also a little bit commenting on what Taavi said is that we say also that the cybersecurity is sort of a team play. So that and what we see today a lot is that, as you also pointed out, that the suppliers need to actually follow or speak the same language as the customers. So what we see is a new trend is that actually companies are exercising together with their providers. So that actually in case of incidents and crises, they have been actually rehearsed and exercised to sort of respond together, because otherwise if you start during the crisis actually figuring out and you haven't actually played together or sort of responded together, then there are expectations on both sides that are not managed, and basically what happens is that the internal team expects something to be done by, for example, MSSP, and MSSP is sort of maybe is having totally different expectations towards the customer team, and then by solving already those sort of miscommunications will take so much time that you actually lose valuable time in responding to the threat, and therefore. What we are, as said, so that for example with the ethos like Elering, then for example we are in our company also building digital twins, so that we actually can build pretty much sort of a digital twin environment of Elering critical systems, so that they can be then exercised on the simulated and sort of a safe environment together with all the providers, and that sort of raise the resiliency is really sort of several times compared to the situation when you actually haven't exercised it together. For the startups, I would say that I will still sort of emphasize also that as mentioned before, that AI doesn't discriminate, are you small or big. So it means that if you have the vulnerability, you are the target. That's it. So that's as simple as that. And probably if you are not ready with your communication plan, you haven't thought it through how you actually will communicate if something happens to you. The second thing that we are always suggesting to smaller and startups to actually be prepared for is that if you are serving your services from cloud and doing it SaaS, so then be prepared for ransomware and Viper. So you have to have a plan for that. It's not that difficult to sort of play through that, but at least you have a plan for that, and you actually will sort of plan your things according and around it, and yeah, basically what the latest threats are, so that I wouldn't put it in a way that what we are exercising, because there was like yesterday another Microsoft Zero Day. Well, in a couple of weeks it probably will be also on our cyber range, and you can play around it with it, so that we are keeping the sort of attack surface up to date, and if there is something interesting emerging, then it will find the way to our cyber range and to our exercises. So.
Very good. Taavi.
Yeah, just I think there are one very important public issue, and I think what we should really agree in society that for what we should be prepared. And I think this is not only applies for Elering or other vital service providers, I don't know, telcos or water suppliers, but I think also such public services as shops or public transport or whatever, that for what we are really should be prepared, because I think it's very much, especially for the management, how much resources are going to allocate. If I should be prepared such a business as usual cases. No, basically we have a risk assessment, we know, okay, those vectors, we should deal with that. But I think it needs quite much more resources if we should be prepared also for I don't know, some kind of asymmetric attacks or even full-scale war. Is this also something what we should be prepared? And I think it also really consists both domains, the physical and digital domains. And I think this question is not answered that for what we should be prepared, but this is somehow really the first question to answer. because very much this follow-up action based on this, because currently I think most of Estonian companies, vital service providers, public service provider, other companies, but what is anyway important to keep society running, they mostly prepared in the best case for business as usual scenarios, but not beyond.
Very good. Jürgen and Andrus.
Yeah, regarding the attacks, what you're seeing, there is maybe sometimes prevails some sort of misconception that those attacks what are made against our companies are something like very, very sophisticated, some very, very complicated 0-day, and then there are some bad guys developed an exploit, and then they will come and do you harm. But what we are seeing, even for example, for ransomware cases, what we are seeing and going out and help the customer with, is that actually the initial foothold and how the attacker gets into your organization is sometimes too simple for them. There is some sort of critical vulnerability that you have been ignoring for quite a lot some time, and somebody will eventually come through that door. And then the consequences are quite negative for the organization, for the business. But yeah, getting rid of those kind of vulnerabilities requires for you to not just I will do a vulnerability scan maybe once a year and find out that okay, I have those issues. This has to be like a constant thing and as frequent as humanly possible for your organization. And yeah, we can talk about those kind of attacks even more great length. But I think the most one recent ransomware case that I was being a part of to help the customer, and also unfortunately I had to do the negotiations with those ransomware guys. And what they said, I just asked at the end of their engagement, and wanted to understand that okay, we had our hypothesis how they got in, but I also wanted to validate our information with them, and they were quite open. And I asked that, okay, we thought that you got in through that server, and the guy said, yeah, we got in through that, but there actually were 2 other guys already in there. We killed those connections and then did our things. And this emphasizes very well that. And the customer was never aware. There were maybe those guys were sitting there for, I don't know, weeks, months. And if you looked at the statistics, sometimes it is said that the adversary in your network is on average 200 plus days inside. And you have been just sitting there and waiting for the bad things to happen. And,
so
yeah.
Traffic jam inside your network.
Exactly.
Andrus.
Yeah, also commenting on what Jürgen said is that, and referring back to also this skills gap, that it is also important to actually have this ability of detecting those different malicious activities in your network. So it's about actually this threat hunting, so that people actually have to have this in their sort of muscle memory that they are daily looking for that. And this is also that what we see in our sort of case, that the most popular exercises lately are actually the threat hunting exercises, so that you actually going around the systems and actually looking for the malicious things and threats and respond to those. And what also sort of taking a little bit maybe down the sort of expectation levels, or the sort of we are a little bit going into this scaring mode, so that it's not that scary, so that you actually again, as said, we need to find this cool to talk about it, and bad thing will happen, and it's unavoidable. But the thing is that what you can do is actually to sort of define for yourself the crown jewels. So you will never be able to protect everything. So it's it's mission impossible. Or you will just spend too much money, but eventually you will still be sort of somehow get hit. So you need to define those crown jewels that you actually will protect with higher sort of attention. And another thing that what we see is that logging. So that if you don't have logs, there's, you will not be able to restore anything or sort of reverse engineer any of those attacks and then how they get in. So that basically logging, meaningful logging, and we say always that there is not such a thing as too much logs, so that just log everything that is happening in your system, and if you have people trained to actually for the threat hunting, then they will find those things faster than 200 days in the system. So that yes.
Great. Do we have any questions from the audience at the moment? Yeah, please. There is a microphone coming up.
It's on, yes? Okay. Hi, I'm Alan Tkaczyk from the University of Tartu, Associate Professor. Thank you for the interesting discussion. Taavi mentioned the word here, ecosystem. And I mean, my question is, as far as the future, how do all of you see the balance between, like private sector, public sector, and academia in solving the future problems of cybersecurity? Because we've talked a lot, very interesting stories here about what's currently happening. But like one case example is that, I mean, often this adversary, you don't know who you're training. You have your class of computer science as a professor. Let's say 90% of those are good students, but then there's 10% rogue students in there. Should there be like background checks? Should somehow there be an ecosystem, in Estonia where the government certifies students in some sensitive area? Anyway, how should this all work? Do the businesses here have some vision of what they need from academic sector, what they need from public sector? I mean, does it need to be open discussion, like Andrus was mentioning at some time this e-voting was going down? I mean, what should we do to really enable this? Thanks.
Okay, who starts? Jürgen.
Actually, that's a great question. Regarding the ecosystem, I think in our company we have maybe achieved a little bit of being part of that ecosystem. And when it comes to our customers, yes, we have them from private sector, we have them from public sector. But when it comes to universities, then we actually have like very good cooperation with universities. And when we talk about, for example, cybersecurity students, they will find out or want to come and work with us, even like do some sort of internship as a beginning. And from that place on, we can train them even further. And the case has been that every practice intern what we have taken into our company has become our employee. So I think it's universities are doing in that sense very good job. But the other point you brought out is that the background checks. As a private sector employer, I only rely on like some certain available resources what I have. But if the projects get more sophisticated or require additional like confidentiality levels, then yes, we can go through the official processes how to get those clearances. But I would see that if we would have a little bit like more capability to do like background checks without involving police or some other instances, it would benefit greatly, because we're seeing a lot of young people coming into our country from different countries, and a lot of them have very bright minds that would benefit our sector as a whole. But how can you like make sure that they're safe to employ? That would be very nice to know. So I'm open to ideas if you have some.
Okay, but that's a very interesting question, this trust, and especially in the cyber domains, trust is especially important and relevant. Taavi, how you are selecting cooperation partners? How do you start trust them? Or let's say you have a new startup guy coming up from Tartu, for example, and they want to become Elering cooperation partner. How do you validate them? How do you trust them?
Yeah, how to really earn trust, I think, and I think the earn is really relevant word. Based on the common track record, that definitely we not let basically in first day someone whom we don't know into our core systems. this is by sure that this is some kind of common journey and to really start to trust those people, those companies. Of course, we do, and this is our advantage compared to private sector companies that we do this security checks not only based on the public information, but we do it based on information what is available for Estonian government. And this is definitely gives some kind of higher certainty that with whom we can and can't work together. This is first. The second, we definitely like to give opportunities same time. New companies come in and provide those potential current or new services because those opportunities or challenges are such a big one that we alone couldn't solve those, and definitely there are also future business opportunities for many new companies, and we also feel somehow responsible as Estonian government-owned company and large utility to somehow give opportunity for future businesses. And what we have done, and I think the best example what we have done is based on this data exchange platform. What was exactly that logic that we like to make as much as we can data public available, not behind the walls, that everyone can come and use it for their business purposes. This is one, and what we did, we like to, and this is exactly we should speak as a past opportunity that we like to put together this kind of European data exchange platform cross-border. But unfortunately, this kind of data treatment in different European countries are so different one that there are basically no chance to make any kind of energy data available for the public in Germany or Sweden. That's basically no-go. Their counterintelligence step in immediately that if you like to do something like that. But thanks God we can do it in Estonia. That if I really short out that first we like to give so much data as we can out of the public. This gives opportunities. This gives opportunities to new companies to come and cooperate with us. I know, for instance, as demand-side flexibility providers. I don't know, as company as a Fusebox, for instance. And this is really great help for us. Because we know in the future, this is the big challenge for us, how to balance demand supply. The second, of course, system operation, which is much more restricted. And this is the systems where we maybe couldn't allow so much the companies outside or vendors who we don't know so well, that you can really somehow differentiate that what is your core systems, those you keep it more your own, what is more such subsystems, where you can allow others also join and use this data, cooperate, create new business cases.
Okay, Andrus, you have been founder by yourself. Also, CybExer is now already established company, but you were also a startup some years ago. What would be your recommendations to those guys who are thinking of establishing a new startup in the cyber domains that when you are thinking on your own journey, how to become successful, how to become trusted, how to become the one who is not only known here in Estonia, but also internationally, because the market here in Estonia is as big as it is exactly. There is only one Elering in Estonia, and that's it.
Yeah, I would say that I actually liked that what was said yesterday actually in one of the panels, that with building a startup there is two things that you need to be. So first is that short term you have to be impatient, and long term you have to be patient. So if you have a longer goal, then you just have to be patient, and if there are like shorter goals, you have to be impatient. Impatient means that you actually need to put a lot of effort to listening to the customer, so that founders tend to sort of know very well what they are going to do and how they are going to change and make the world better. But sometimes there is a newsflash that customers also have their own view on how the things can be made better. And if you listen to them, and then it is become much more successful. And this is basically, I would say that for the startup is that really if you want to do it, you have to be from one hand patient, from the other hand impatient. For as building a startup that is sort of recognized not only in Estonia but wider, then I would say that the Estonian brand is very strong. So, for example, we did last year the first ever national cybersecurity exercise for government of India. So imagine now India and Estonia, right? So there was only on the planning stage there was roughly 1,500 people involved in this. So and why we were successful there, I think it is the sort of the fact that we came from Estonia was actually a big factor. They were looking for different type of options, but they were like very keen to have it with Estonians, because Estonia has this this whole Estonia cybersecurity leader, etc., and also the Estonian Enterprise Estonia and I think that MFA also have actually a big role in this, actually promoting it very well, and I think it's also a result of this, coming back again to the 2007, but that the fact that we actually didn't let the good crisis to sort of we actually took most out of the crisis and turned it in favor of us, and I think that the continuous work that has been done over these last many years, then I think that it is currently a good momentum actually to sort of still surf the wave, and if you have an idea, then just write it down, test it on customers, plan it, and go find funds to execute it.
Okay, great. So before we are going to the Q&A from you as well, I would ask every panelist to also voice your opinion about the future. I know it's difficult to look into the future, but let's see what happens in the domain in, let's say, 5 years' time. Where we are moving, what are the trends, what are the threats, what we are going to face, or how much things are going to change. Maybe, Jürgen, you can start.
I don't want to scare, so this is what we agreed. But what we are seeing today, even like if we go through some of the incident examples that we have noticed in Estonia for the past recent times, then like the adversary is getting more capable in a sense that they are getting more destructive tools in their own disposals, and they are like getting more easy to use. For example, you have probably all heard about Lockbit. Lockbit is something that you can actually go and rent out this service. And basically you will only have to do like the attacking part yourself. But the tools that you're using for this attack is there for you. Somebody has developed it, and they have customer service to make sure that you're a happy user of that software. And then they can they can go find some targets, especially the weak ones are very lucrative, do their actions, and then they just share a little bit of the revenue with the developers. So those tools are already on the market. They are getting more better. So you also have to increase your defensive side, because otherwise, I don't want to say script kiddies, but guys who are just like maybe learning out and just testing some of your systems, maybe out of their garage or something, they can already cause damage to your business, and that's not a good situation to be in.
Thank you. Andrus?
Well, I'm not an oracle, but I would say that I see a big impact on the whole AI thing. So that the AI today, if you would ask that how exactly it will sort of change the game, I don't know, but it will definitely. And I think that as Jürgen mentioned, that the sort of creating harm and sort of attacking somebody will become definitely much easier. But as a future, I would look at from the perspective. Maybe also sort of going back to the first question that was from the audience is that regarding the education and students, I would say that from the perspective of answering the question that how to select them, and if let's say some will go rogue, then even if you have the background checks, you still are not able to sort of control that they will not go rogue. So the thing is that I think that the good guys will outnumber the bad guys, and as having a project a couple of years ago in one another country, then they had this countrywide cybersecurity initiative for the kids aged 10 to 14. And there was also this question that, you know, if you start to teach them cybersecurity or all the capabilities already that young, then how you assure that they will not go on the other side? And then I liked the sort of the leader and the sort of ideologist behind this whole idea, taking the sort of whole generation and making them cyber aware and preparing them for the future cyber sort of warriors. And then he said that, you know, but as they already came to us, then they are already on the good side. So that and I would think that we should be in our mindset also, not be thinking too much about those who might go rogue, but rather sort of elevating those who are actually interested in this and would like to sort of contribute to the safety of the society, the country, and therefore as future, I would see that I would point out that the education system needs to be sort of adjusted in that light. And in 5 years, I really hope that the things that we are currently teaching in the university first years will be already taught either in the high schools or even previously regarding the cybersecurity, so that when people actually go to the university, they will start making science, not just starting to learn the whole cybersecurity.
Thank you. Taavi?
Thank you. I think from the leadership point of view, I think there are a couple of challenges. The first, of course, even this unpredictability is even larger than it is right now. That I think this is definitely one what I can see, and to be ready, some sort of certain type of attacks is quite pointless. It means that you should be ready from all different type of prospects. It means really that this cybersecurity moves even more such integral part of your everyday business. This kind of complementary for different type of jobs that basically if you are dispatch guy in the control center, you should be some type of complementary knowledge also concerning the cybersecurity. It also applies for the maintenance, substation maintenance guy or whoever, that this kind of complementary education top up on your such main knowledge and experience to really be ready, act wherever this kind of potential attack comes from in this very unpredictable world. The other one, because exactly those resources are there in our adversaries, resources there, motivation there. Now is a question about the opportunities, and I'm also quite certain that this kind of malware can sit and wait maybe years before it get activated. That it means really for me that this kind of backup must be in place, and I think it's a good question that where this backup must be, because I think exactly the last news really show us that maybe the best really to put it into somewhere in cloud out from your own country to really be especially in the case of the wider attack really able to restore and not to negotiate only to get this information back. That this is quite a strategical question, at least for us, that how and where we are going to back up our systems and in which extent. And maybe the last comment that this good risk assessment is something I've seen quite many Estonian companies, and now we are talking to most Estonian companies, that this risk assessment still not in the relevant level. And exactly you should also look this cyber threat as a function of your other business risks. That okay, you put it in that what is important, what is not important for you, because different companies important to different things also in the cyber domain, and that you should somehow better differentiate what is important, what is not, because there are no resources outside to deal with all those risks. Maybe the better choice is something, clever choice, most relevant choice for you is something what we should look more.
I would say that you just have to make the cybersecurity as part of your business model.
Exactly. Okay, very good. But now I would be happy to take a few questions from the audience. So yes, please. Oh, we have many hands. Great. Starting from back there, that was the first one.
Peeter Mõtsküla, ex-IT guy turned lawyer. So if this panel had been composed of insurance execs, we would probably have heard how important it is to take out insurance against any possible risk. If this panel had been composed of compliance lawyers, we would have heard how important it is to invest money and time into compliance. Now we heard how important it is to invest time and money into cybersec. So what would be a practical approach for a startup who doesn't have infinite resources? So how to engineer you guys and us compliance lawyers as much out of the business model as possible to avoid meeting us and at the same time avoid meeting those bad guys?
Okay. Who has experience?
I try to answer that. I think it really depends that which kind of startup do you have. And exactly what I said, that if this cyber domain is something what is important for your business, then you should deal with the cyber. If it's compliance is important for you, then you deal with the compliance. That you should prioritize your risks or based on exactly the formula. Risk is probability multiplied by impact, that which kind of risks are most with most highest score with you, and definitely based on that you should make your choice. Definitely you couldn't deal with all of those, because basically life is sum of your choices. I think Albert Camus said it.
Very good. Jürgen.
Thanks for a great question. And in a sense, yeah, you don't have to seek out all the potential help that is out there. We have cyber insurance, we have compliance specialists. Everyone wants to sell what they know best, right? But yeah, if you start out, there are many different cybersecurity frameworks what you can follow. They are easy to implement, and you can also like pick out what apply for your organization. For example, Estonia has made their own information security policy that you can actually follow. Pick out the pieces that are applied to your startup. Maybe your startup at the beginning is an AWS server, couple of laptops, but still it's already the infrastructure. You have guys who have access to those systems, and you have to maintain them and manage them and set them up like according to best practices. So if you follow those, then you can easily grow out your business and get more people on board when the time comes. And also, if some startups need help, then you can also reach out to us and we can figure something out.
Very good. We had two more questions here. One there, one here. Yeah.
Hello. Thanks for the panel. Ivo Malve, cyber engineer at Telia. So my question is on behalf of startup enthusiasts today. So what do you see are from your side, the gaps in the cybersecurity area today in Estonia? And from the perspective of startups, what are the low-hanging fruits? Like problems that can be fixed, addressed quickly, and can create the most value. So more specifically, Mr. Veskimägi, if you imagine that a cyber startup were to show up at your door tomorrow, then what would you like them to solve for you? Which services, which products? And also I would love to hear the perspective of university, Mr. Jervan. I imagine that people from both private and public sector are coming to universities asking for research, for knowledge, for technologies. So what are the most demanded topics or technologies where startups could create the most value? Thanks.
Okay, Taavi, you start.
I can. Okay, and my answer also addressed the question asked a bit before, that the first what I see right now, I try to hire new employees for cybersecurity in Elering in-house, and basically I think this is quite familiar. I think many of you, I believe, that I really couldn't find suitable people for that. I think this is something really for academia, that I think we are quite of lack of capable resources, that this is something what we, if we talk about that this kind of increasing threat, then I see that there are huge demand for capable people to protect our companies. And I'm very much dealing with that in Elering right now, really get people on board in this area. This is the first, that what maybe academia can help us. The second, that what I see, if I say that there not only knowledge needed for employees, but this kind of practical capability, then I don't know, one job or one kind of need from our part is really this kind of red teaming capabilities. That exactly there are companies who are able to provide this kind of red teaming exercises, because at least based on our practices, this really give quite a lot of value that people can understand and capable to solve those potential cyber threats. Maybe this is something what I see, that currently we are working the foreign companies mainly on those matters, that why not that we can do it more based on Estonian companies.
Okay, and then there was a question also about the universities and what are acquired from universities, or what kind of questions we are receiving. Then it's very simple. It's training. So that's what everyone is looking for. That resonates also what Taavi was mentioning about the lack of staff and training in all different aspects. So it's also we at university, we are engaged in organizing different tabletop exercises and these kind of things, but also internationally what the foreign governments are looking are how to set up training programs, how to set up some study programs, for example, and so on and so on. So there is kind of a global appetite for workforce, and there is a serious lack of people who are active in this domain. So if we at university, we could get like our budgets, I don't know, doubled, we could also educate double amount of students, but well, at the moment it's definitely not there in this range, but training and once more training. Okay, and we had one more question there.
Hello, Ulrich Norbesreit. I'm a computer science professor here in University of Tartu. And so I had a little side conversation while you were discussing here about social engineering. And I think I wanted to second Jürgen, actually, who said, if you are a startup, you can actually, if you want to do something secure, there's a lot of opportunities to actually start in a secure way. And so in an international perspective, I have the feeling that social engineering attacks have become one of the major threat. And so the side conversation went into the direction saying, maybe Estonia is not that bad in that regard. But so I would like to know your opinion. How bad are social engineering attacks, especially as a threat for startups here in Estonia?
Yeah, social engineering, glad you brought that one up, because when it comes to, well, phishing in a sense is a little bit also like part of social engineering, and I believe that we have been like doing trainings on companies to show that okay, phishing is bad and you have to be knowledgeable what you click on. But I personally believe that everybody in the world can be phished, and you just need the right context, you need the right timing, and sometimes in the day, your brain is occupied with something else, and you will fall for those tricks what those social engineers are using. But yeah, it is a threat, and unfortunately we see it being used as part of the attacks there. So if some startups come up with clever ways how to reduce that, then I think there is a market for it. But yeah, I think it's not going to go away, because getting people to do things that somebody else wants to do it can happen, but it doesn't mean that you should like punish them in a sense, because like there is always like a statistic that somebody in your organization will click on something, somebody will be socially engineered, and that's like a certainty. But sometimes when we talk with, for example, with executives, they say that, well, oh, my employees clicked on this link and I suffered from that kind of damage. And then I ask from them that, okay, is your like whole cybersecurity built on that your employees have to also doing like good on their job, and in a sense also be like cybersecurity specialists. And if your like accountant clicks on a link that runs malware and your company goes bankrupt, then that's not like a very good security practice. And if you put it on the people and then even scold them about it, then I think you're in the wrong business.
Okay, great. So Taavi, Andrus, Jürgen, thank you very much for this lovely discussion, answering the questions. And now, Kati, back to you.
Yes, thank you. My very warm thanks to the panel. I think it was a very fruitful discussion. We have a little something for you as well from Startup Estonia, so I think they do deserve another applause.